Alright, what's poppin', people? We're back! And look, we got a little Pokemon Spotlight action. Been a little bit of time since we did one, but I figured today would be as good a day as any to do one. You wanna know why? Because we got drops yesterday, but the problem is, since the tier shifts were the only thing that happened in tier shifts that wasn't originally projected, that I didn't cover in the video they win, was Silvally Steel rising up to NU. Every other shift that, or possible shift that we talked about actually happened. And so I don't really see a reason to go and do a whole nother video on that because I'm just gonna repeat myself. You know? So instead I'm gonna actually just talk more in depth about one Pokemon and my experience using it, seeing it used as well, over the, first day of shifts, which isn't much time, but it does at least give me some modicum of, like, understanding, I guess, of the mod. A lot of it's, so Regidrago, right? It's not like I didn't know what this mod was gonna do, but it is still nice to see how it actually plays out, because there were some amount of biases that we came into this with, right? So if you think about, like, what Awood and I talked about, the big thing with Draco is it's like, yeah, so Fairy type's Wallet, and that's about it. So, having actually used it now, I can actually verify whether that mentality was correct or not. And of course, as always, look, if you're enjoying the videos and you're not subscribed, just press the button, man. Come on now. It ain't that hard. We're on the road to 372 million subscribers and you don't want to be one of those 372 million? That's crazy. But we're talking about Regidrago today. And this is the most interesting drop to me, for a couple of reasons at least. The first one is just the theme of the Pokemon. So, both the Regis that we got in, I guess that'd be DLC 2 at this point, right? I think so. Both the Regis that we got in DLC 2 are very interesting, in that they have really good abilities. They have the same abilities for different typings, and some really, good moves to make use of them. Well, maybe Regieleki not so much, but Regidrago, Dragon Energy coming off of, Dragon's Ball, decent enough special attack, especially as you go down the tiers, and then they got absolutely messed up by coverage being horrible. If you, at least on the special side, right? So if I'm looking at special moves, Ancient Power, okay. Hits nothing in NU, but, if we were in R, you would hit Togekiss, I guess. Draco, okay. Dragon Energy, great. Dragon Pulse, okay. I got some options for if I'm low on HP. Okay, I'm scrolling still. Oh, Hyper Beam, lovely. And, oh, I'm done. Like, this mod, literally, you are clicking your Dragon-type move under every circumstance. I don't care if you're predicting a Fairy type to switch in. I'm not clicking Ancient Power. The only reason I have Ancient Power on here is because if this is my last Pokemon, I do need to be able to hit a Fairy type. But otherwise, man, I'm hard switching out. If I know there's a Diancie on the other team and they're gonna switch into it when I have my Drago out, I'm just switching into my check. I'm not chipping it with Ancient Power, bro. It's gonna do like 12. That's not damage. I don't know what the hell you thought that was gonna do, but it sure as hell isn't doing damage. And so this one's just really cool because compared to the other Dragon-type wall breakers that's here, right? Goodra is the most immediate comparison, because literally the same speed tier. Goodra is a Pokemon that has incredible coverage. You're talking Thunderbolt, Fire Blast, Sludge Bomb, Iron Tail, Surf. If you go physical, you could look at Power Whip, Earthquake. And through those moves, you're able to deal with Steel types and Fairy types. Regidrago says, okay, I click Dragon Energy. And you don't care what switching in unless, of course, it's a Fairy type. But Steel types, Bronzong? No, that's not a check. That takes over half. Escavalier? No, that takes over half. What's the other? Copper No, takes over half. The Blade? It might die from full. It might die from full. Let's figure out, actually. Does the Blade die from full to Regidrago's Specs Dragon Energy? Okay, are you... Come on, man. How y'all not gonna be using this? Also, we're not gonna put in the ability because it actually just auto-adds it. Dragon Energy. I didn't expect to be correct Also, just to verify. Let's add a modest nature, just to see that one. Yo, after rocks, it actually Oko's the blade. That's really funny. But I guess we can even just verify those other statements, right? So Copperajah. Yep, it is AV Copperajah. That's dead. Bronzong, physically defensive. That's dead. We'll even add the Spadef that they sometimes run. It's not any better. It's not any better. Escavalier, the most Spadef set possible. Technically, could do some protect stalling, right? So you could switch in protect, and you might tank another one because of lefty's recovery. But I mean, it's not like you're doing anything back. Like, that's the other thing about Regidrago. It's got those Guzzlord-like defensive stats where you just deceptively bulky, and as a result, yeah, you could afford to maybe just take a random hit. And part of the reason for that too is because, look, I've seen a lot of people when they're talking about Regidrago and why they think it's like balanced, because they're talking about, oh, you can stall out Dragon Energy and you can weaken it randomly. It's got to preserve health. It has Draco. Like, it's not like that's a lot weaker. Like, look, I still do so much. The blade still gets bounced back into the Shadow Realm by Draco. Copperajah, it is still sent into extinction. Extinction. It is still made extinct by Draco. Bronzong, that's Bonsley. Bronzong, that's monotype. What? Okay, well, it's the same. Whatever. Like, yeah, I can't look. I can't 2-hit KO technically because I'm getting the special attack drops. Sure, but it's like I'm not really worried about that. I'm still chunking every switch in for an insane amount of damage, and I think that's the big like good thing to Regidrago. It's just that compared to Goodra, sure, you do have some literal answers you could never break through without team support, but everything else, you're just clicking. And I think that's one of the reasons it's like my favorite mod in the tier right now. It is the embodiment of click. So if you watch my, lives or Joey's lives that I feature in, I am 1000% a clicker on ladder. I attack what's in front of me. Sometimes I think about making some stupid reads, but I just like to, if I have a strong move, I want to use it because I like seeing big damage done. And Regidrago facilitates that need of mine really, really well. And so, in terms of the sets, right, there's really not a whole lot. Specs is good. Another set that is good, Scarf. So, I was playing with this mon, and there were a couple of games where it's like, if we were Scarf Regidrago, we 6-0'd, because the speed tier bonus is actually really good. You get the jump on non-Scarf Rotom-Mow, on Duraludon, which, if you're against offense, which I think actually can kind of contain Drago, just through outspeeding it and hitting it, hard, making it so it at least can't spam this move super safely. It has to rely on Draco and take those special attack drops, maybe even miss. Although, I guess against offense even, like, you might just click Dragon Pulse. But, against offense, you can shred through those teams. Because Dragon Energy is ridiculously strong, even if you're not Specs. The boost from Dragon's Maw, and just it being such a strong move when you're at full, those two things combined are generally more than enough to let you sweep through those sorts of teams. And there aren't a lot of mods on offense that threaten to revenge kill you. Even if you're thinking about like the standard fast mods on balances, you're thinking like maybe Talonflames, Salazzles, you're faster than those because of Scarf. And, those sure as hell aren't living Dragon Energy. The hell, Talonflame isn't even living Ancient Power, man. That mod's drop into the rocks. But it's a really cool little tech you can do, I think. Also, we're talking about specs. As we were showing in the calc, when we're showing like how ridiculous Regidrago's damage can get, I do think Modest is a fine choice. Goodra runs a special attack boosting nature a lot of the time as well, because there's just not a lot of Pokemon in that speed tier between positive natured base 80s and neutral natured. It's like Jolly Dragon Dance Tyrantrum, because if you're CB, you run Adamant. But I mean, I guess that's in there. Obviously, speed tying with other base 80s is a thing too, but Like, let's look through the list. You know, timid Blastoise is not a set. Decidueye, if it's like jolly or timid, that's probably the most relevant thing that you'd worry about. And frankly, both Regidrago and Goodra, they're usually okay against Decid. If it's physical Decid, Goodra gets sent back. I think Regidrago might actually tank a hit though, just because of the weird bulk. You know, as you look through all these Pokemon, there's just really not a whole lot that you miss out on if you go modest, so I think it is pretty affordable. Main reason that when I was playing with this that I ran Timid was just because of all the 80s that do go a non-speed boosting nature. I thought maybe punish them for that, you know, get a little bit of punishment. There was a time in Gen 7 NU where Aerodactyl, this was like before it really took off and became one of the best Pokemon in the format, it ran, it just ran like some bulk and dropped its speed. I think you ran speed for, I'm trying to remember the mon. And I'm blanking on what it was that we were running speed for. I think it was a base like 115 mon maybe, or 120. Regardless, we ran some speed and then we dumped the rest into bulk for like taking a Sneasel Ice Sharpener. Oh, Sceptile, that was what we were outspeeding. But as Aerodactyl got better, people just said, you know what? No, I'm going Jolly Max speed because I don't want to, you know, I want to at least at worst speed type with opposing arrow. And so I do think there's something to that with Drago, where you just go timid and say, you know what? No, I don't want to get outsped by Goodra if they choose to run timid, or a knocked off Passimian. I want to be able to at least speed tie with that, and maybe outspeed just because I win the tie. Now, if we're talking about other things that we can do with this mon, right? There's not a lot. The move pool is horrible. It's dire. But one set that I have seen people try. And if you're an RU player, of course you've seen this. I don't know what physical move to give it. I'll give it Outrage. But it is, I'm going to put an Explosion because that's literally the last move that I've seen used the most. But Dragon Dance. This set is... It's still walled by fairies, and honestly, this might want to be... I mean, if you're Fire Fang, the Blade still walls you. But, this set gives it a little bit better of a chance against fairy types. Only in the sense that Hammer Arm at least does, like, respectable damage to Diancie. And then, of course, Explosion, you can just straight up pick a Sylveon off with it, which is kind of nice. So maybe if you were to pair it... Maybe, say you ran some jank Hyper Offense team with, like, a Zoroark. That could be a sort of cool lure pairings. I mean, hell, if you're also talking about choiced Regidrago. If you ran, like, a ring target Zoroark with Trick, you know, maybe there's some sort of, like, core there. Because Zoroark even, you know, you can not only force the damage on the fairies with Sludge Bomb, if you go special, but you could also, you know, if you're disguised as Regidrago, they're always switching into you. And so that makes it real easy to get the trick off. But, I have seen this a little bit, because +1 Hammer Arm to Diancie actually is doing like over half, because they don't run any physical bulk, other than the HP investment. Which is kind of nice. And like we said, Explosion's good for picking off the other fairy types, so if you have an offensive core, where your other Pokemon does want fairy types taken out, well, maybe there's something to that. But, as we were saying, yeah, there's not really a lot else here. Like... Okay, I don't know why I went over there to try to look through the moves. Like, as we go through the moves, it's like, what else am I running? Maybe on specs I go Sleep Talk last, just so I can switch into a Vileplume's Sleep Powder? That's really it. Maybe instead of Explosion I go Thrash last. I had Cute Seal say he was gonna go Thrash Regidrago to hit up Sylveon. Maybe? Or like Body Slam if you want a, less bad move. It's dire. It is a dire situation. But I don't think that, you know, this is a bad set. I think there's at least some appeal to this. Now, checks and counters. Normally, I'd have a box. You know, the team builder's got a box feature where you could, like, say, store a whole bunch of sets. Or in a custom battle, you could bring up to 24 Pokemon if for some reason you really wanted to annoy your friend. But with Regidrago... Where is it? Shoutouts, Catalysador. Here you go. Here's your check encounter. Swirlix. What is Regidrago doing to me? What are you doing to me? You know? Literally any fairy type. And that's pretty much the extent, right? It's not that simple. But just to make a point here about how, like, counterplay is kind of weird for Regidrago. Fairy types are going to stonewall this Pokemon forever. Whether it's Diancie, Comfey, Rabombi, Sylveon, throw out some even more niche ones, Whimsicott. You know, I've seen a couple of people mention some really whack options, which it's like, I guess you're proving a point, sure, but come on, man. But literally any fairy type. Okay, Rabombi does get picked off by Ancient Power, but regardless. Fairy types are the one thing that make this mod, like, not really function. As we saw, steel types get absolutely bounced. I guess another weird way you could try to talk about checks and counters, if you try to, like... So let's talk about, like, very specific context. If a Regidrago switches into my Vaporeon, and I've got a fairy type on my team, I can protect Scout. Not only are we wasting power points of Dragon Energy / Draco Meteor, but we're also making sure that we are giving ourselves the best chance to force those 50-50s. And what I mean by force 50-50 is, okay, so I protect. I see whatever Drago's locking into there. Now the Drago player may want to double, predicting my fairy type to come in. That can give me a chance to maybe throw off a Scald for free. Things like that, right? So, Regidrago's biggest weakness, I want to say, other than fairy types, is just how, like, linear the gameplay is for it. Because you're constantly forced into wanting to double with it, I feel, if you're getting those bad matchups. And that can kind of just limit its presence. So, I played one game where I was against a fairy type. It was a 5v6. Regidrago did nothing that game, other than go out into the field and then switch out. Because I knew always the Diancie was coming in. And that is a very large limiting factor for it. That I think is quite important. Some Pokemon will have bad matchups, but still be able to do something. So take Blastoise, another polarizing Pokemon in the tier. Blastoise in a bad matchup can still try to cheese a victory, or at least, you know, like, contribute something by weakening a foe. Even if you're into, like, a Mantine or a Scarf Heliolisk, or even just, like, Specs, because you don't Oko Lisk, you can still win the game with Stoise. Because you can rely on luck, maybe. Or you could soften it up, you know, foes for your teammates. Regidrago doesn't get that same luxury. If I am against a fairy type, this Pokemon is there for death fodder, or just so that I can try to telegraph play from my opponent. And that's really it. And it even because, like, if we want to talk about offensive counterplay, right? The thing's bulk being as good as it is makes revenge killing it a little bit awkward. Because its speed stat is still pretty good. So some of the slower breakers, like, for instance, say Goodra, right? Goodra, I say slower breakers, just same speed tier. But Goodra isn't going to outspeed me guaranteed. At worst, or the best case scenario for it, and the worst, is a speed tie. You know, looking at our breakers, you know, like Decidueye, if I'm timid, I'm faster. Let's see other ones. Golurk, I'm just faster than. Inteleon, you don't Oko me. My bulk's really good. Heliolisk, you don't Oko me. Scarf Passimian, nope. Rotom-Mow, Keck W. Salazzle, better be boosted, and I think even then, it has to be Dragon Pulse to Oko. Starmie probably doesn't Oko you. Sirfetch'd, you're faster than, even if you go Modest. Toxicroak probably needs a boost and probably needs an Active God. Tauros, nope. Talonflame, the Lamau, nice. Tyrantrum, better be Scarfed, or hope that I'm Modest if you're, like, randomly jolly. The point that we're getting across here, right? Because of the speed and the bulk, this thing's actually kind of hard to revenge kill. And so, you know, we touched on this earlier. A point that I've seen people raise for trying to revenge, or not revenge kill it, but limit it, is stall out power points of Dragon Energy. I show you Draco Meteor again. Yes, it's weaker. Yes, it can miss. Yes, I don't get to just spam it as easily. But it's still stupidly strong and makes insane progress, even against steel types. And even Dragon Pulse. Like, this move KO'd a Blastoise after one switch in of rocks. I'm not very upset if I'm spamming out Dragon Pulse, you know? Like, it's still making a lot of progress. But I think that's really about it for Regidrago. We're voting on Sunday on both Regidrago and Snorlax, and based on my observations of using them on, I think I know how I'm voting. I think I'm gonna probably vote to ban it as is. It's just, I think Redchon had a really good take about Regidrago, where it's like, you could team build into it just fine. And it's not even like you're going out of your way to build a good team still. But just like in the Hail meta, where every team was either Hail or like Vaporeon balance, which gave you enough leeway around Hail. And keep in mind, back then Arctozolt wasn't allowed in the tier, so it was Arctovish that was the big problem. It would make team building so constricted to the point that we're pretty much dealing with two types of teams. Teams with Regidrago and teams without Regidrago, but that are built specifically because of Regidrago. Not to the same extent, because there is enough team building flexibility with your fairy types. But I don't like that effect on team building. So, you know, I think the tier just benefits from having it banned. And if you want to get into the argument that some people will leverage at Mons, especially offensive Pokemon, it doesn't add anything positive to the tier. It is literally just another breaker. It's not like, say, we brought Indeedee Male back into the tier, which we should do, by the way. I'm still trying to get us to test it back into the tier. Because if Indeedee Female is, like, barely viable, ain't not a damn way that Indeedee Male is broken. I'm letting you know that right now. But that's beside the point. Indeedee Male is a mon that, if you want to look at things it provides to the tier, well, it blocks First Impression from Sirfetch'd, which is kind of cool. It gives a more viable enabler, I would say, to Psychic Terrain teams as well. And that's not to say that Indeedee Female is bad at doing that. And in some ways, maybe you could say it's a little better, because Healing Wish is good for certain sweepers. But it'd be just a better, you know, overall standalone mon. Catch my drift. I mean, it has... I don't know if I want to say it has more defensive utility, because that mon's really frail. So I'm not going to say that. But it is a ghost immunity, and as I've said before to people, I will hard switch my Heliolisk into a Golurk. You think I won't do the same thing with my Indeedees? Oh, you are mistaken, my guy. But I do think that is a reasonable enough outlook. And I mean, Goodra is like an example of a more balanced Regidrago, essentially, where it's a pain to switch into as well, particularly because of the coverage. But Goodra can not necessarily be blanked by certain Pokemon, but because you have to predict with it, it's a lot easier to keep contained. Whereas with Regidrago, I'm clicking this move and I don't care what happens. But I hope y'all enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, leave a like, comment telling me what you enjoy the most about using Regidrago. I'd ask for any cool sets, but what other sets are there? Choice Band, I guess? I mean, I guess you could run that. You have Outrage. Anyhow, man, I hope y'all enjoy your day, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.